everyone, welcome to my mildly poorly lit cocktail bar of sorts. Today we are going to be trying out different old-fashioned recipes, and we have two different bourbons, one from Yellowstone, the other one Redemption. I realized after buying them, I thought this was a rye whiskey. It's a rye bourbon, so it actually just has a rye concentration instead of wheat. Yellowstone, I am not sure, but they have two very different flavors. We're gonna try them out, and we're gonna try it out with different types of bitters. I've got here with me just the normal maraschino cherries that are used, as well as we're gonna try it with an orange, also a lemon, because we're actually going to try out the original recipe. We are also going to try some different flavors, and we may have a special guest with us here a little bit later on to join us with this taste testing. I've got a notebook here so I can write down how I feel about things. And let's get started. Okay, so to do the preliminary on the two different bourbons we have, I'm going to do the recipe from liquor.com for an old fashioned. So from there, they say to do this in a separate glass. We are going to take 1 teaspoon of sugar. And don't worry, this time I'm actually going to use normal sugar, not the different types. Take 1 teaspoon of sugar, and we're going to take a teaspoon of water. I have this just poured out, and in good Kentucky fashion, I'm using Kentucky water. Let me get a little bit more because I don't think I got enough in there. Okay. Taking a bar spoon. Oop. This is gonna be fun for me to edit. Gonna stir. Put in 3 dashes of Angostura bitters, or just aromatic bitters. Usually it's Angostura, but this was a different company. 1, 2, 3. And we're gonna start off with this Yellowstone. Funny thing with Yellowstone, it is the only one of the the bluegrass that I have not gone to, because it calls for 2 ounces. I think this is the only. So I'm gonna go. This is gonna be probably a little painful. I'm still working on my ability to make cocktails, y'all. Nothing else. This is showing me what I want. And now we're going to strain this into another glass with ice. So, also I apologize about this angle. I know it's not the best. I had to put my phone also on the charger while recording. It'll be able to be moved later in a little bit. And I think, just for the fun of it, because it's always nice to have, I'm going to put a single cherry in there. Also, don't worry, this is, I know this is a lot of bourbon. I'm not gonna drink all of it. And 1 cherry. So, here is the first. This is the one with Yellowstone in it. I forgot to add the orange twist. I'm just gonna express it around. And cheers. Got a bit of a kick. I'm assuming it's from the Yellowstone. But not, like, it hits kind of at the back of your mouth, if you get what I mean. If I was to have this at a bar, I'd probably give it maybe 7 out of 10. Not the worst, not my, like, die-hard favorite. I think also sometimes I lean a little bit on the sweeter side for my old fashions. Okay, next onto this Redemption rye whiskey, or rye bourbon. I was very curious about this one. The saleswoman at Total Wines did her job. I was intrigued, and I thought actually this would make a really good bourbon. It had enough smoky and pepperiness that made me think of an old fashioned without it being crazy. So I'm actually going to use the same recipe I did for the last one, just changing out which bourbon is getting used. I just wanted to clean out the jigger. I also forgot to add the Angostura bitters and mixing everything up. Hopefully that didn't mess everything up. If not, I will just remake it. I'm having to find all of my glasses that could mildly work for this. I've got more that they will show up when we get a little bit fancier. So this is obviously much darker. I think that is due to the bitters though. I accidentally may have put in more than the other. So here's the redemption. Definitely more bitters, I think that's, but I feel like it makes a smoother old fashioned. Yeah, this one, this is a smoother one. It doesn't have as much of a bite. And I think that also leans into the fact that ryes do actually work really well typically with old fashions, and why I'd wanted to try one. But like I said, I forgot. So this is kind of probably going to be the closest, because this one did lean heavier on the rye. It's got about a 35% rye mash bill. They actually say it on the thing. Yeah. I think we will keep on moving forward with this redemption. The other is not bad. Yellowstone is not bad. I think this one just leans more into like that 8 out of 10. Something that I would expect more of a classic bartender to make. And this would be, that would be like a bourbon that he would prefer or she would prefer. Okay, so the next one that we are making is actually based off of the original recipe for old fashions. I should also mention with this old fashioned recipe, started by James E. Pepper, all they say in the recipe is whiskey. Like you can see the screenshot from the book that this is from and the unusual measurements that are with it. So in this case, we're actually going to be using a 1/4 lump of sugar, which is actually a 1/4 teaspoon. I decided that this would be better than using the other container. But like I mentioned, we're going to need a 1/4 teaspoon of sugar, not salt. That would make a really weird old fashioned. And 2 spoons, which I almost think refers to bar spoon. So we're going to use 2 bar spoons of water. Really should have paid more attention when I was at the James E. Pepper distillery on how they made it. But I did not, which makes sense. I do remember though, I believe they actually used a sugar cube and mold it. What I find interesting is that most of the recipes for old fashioned seem to use just plain sugar, not a simple syrup. So I actually prepared a simple syrup just in case. And we may try it with a simple syrup to see. But as you can see, most of it has been dissolved. Then we're just gonna go using 1 dash of bitters. Maybe that was 2, but, and in this case, we are actually gonna be using 1 jigger, which is an ounce and a half instead of the 2 ounces. Again, we're using the redemption. I think this will lean closer because the James E. Pepper, I believe, used more of the rye whiskey, which is a pretty good whiskey, in my opinion. It also uses more of a German style, which I think does help. So we're gonna mix. I'm going to actually put a lemon in instead. I've only seen lemon used in 2 places for old fashioned, and that has been at James E. Pepper and Castle and Key, and an ice cube or 2 ice cubes. So let's see how this goes. This one brings out more of the pepperiness of the rye, but again, it's not in the jowls, it's front of the tongue. I am gonna put it probably actually lower. I feel like it's probably in the 6.5, which makes me really sad because I really like the old fashioned at James E. Pepper. It doesn't have any strong flavors to it. It doesn't highlight the bourbon. The lemon's not really there. It feels very watered down. I'd be a little sad if I got given that at a restaurant. I would say though, if you go to James E. Pepper in the Distillery District here in Lexington, they make really good old fashioned, so just go for them instead of whatever the heck I'm doing. Okay, so for these next three, I am joined with Annalisa, and we are going to be making 3 more specialty types. So with the previous stuff I did, we're kind of did a baseline, figured out what works, what we like, and now we're gonna move on to changing up things like different bitters, different forms of getting the sweeteners, and we've got a fun cocktail that Annalisa helped make. Woo! Okay, so with the black walnut, we are going to do the same that we have done the last 2 times more. Not the original version, but the new version from liquor.com. So 1 teaspoon, 1 teaspoon, and instead of using the typical old-fashioned bitters, we are going to switch it out for black walnut. I got this idea because, oh wait, I gotta stir this first. I got this idea because at Wilderness Trail, they used black walnut instead. Okay, so we're doing the black walnut. Like I mentioned earlier, black walnut is a Kentucky native like flavor really, and Wilderness Trail made a really good old-fashioned using black walnut. So this may have leaned more towards 4 dashes for that last dash, but like, and we're gonna do the 2 ounces of bourbon. And now I don't feel as bad because I have now somebody to share it with, instead of just like kind of wasting the bourbon, which, as anybody who now lives in Kentucky and also knows how expensive like manufacturing bourbon is, it's like, oh, it makes my little heart cry a bit. That's a little much, but we'll keep it low on the last 4. This is going to be an interesting one because this is a very, I wouldn't say mild bourbon, but a bourbon that doesn't lean one way or the other. It is a very balanced on its flavor wheel, unlike things like the Woodford Reserve. We added the ice. We're just going to strain it over and add an orange. Okay, that fell exactly in it, and then I'm going to do one kind of around the rim. That's what I see all the bartenders do, so let's do it the same way. And the 1 Luxardo cherry. So we've got our black walnut bitters. Should I have the first sip? Yes.
Ooh.
There is a little bit actually of a maple flavor at the very end as an like the final flavor. It starts off tasting like a normal old-fashioned, but the finishing note is sweeter.
Yeah, I don't feel like it's maple, but it's definitely like sugary and sweet.
Yeah. It leans more on that kind of botanical, but not like where it feels like you're eating that woody botanical.
That it does feel like there's walnut in there though. Like it feels like there's earthy tones.
Yeah. Although, fun fact, black walnut does not typically taste like normal walnut.
That's true.
Have I ever had a black walnut? No, but weirdly I recently was seeing stuff about black walnut because everybody listens in, and I was talking about black walnut a couple of times, and so that's how I learned it. Yeah.
Second sip?
Yeah, second sip. I mean, theoretically, with any bourbon tasting, you're supposed to do 3 sips, so, like, why not with an old-fashioned, too?
Yeah, there's definitely, like, woodsy, sweet tones.
Works well with, this bourbon was a good choice. This, the Redemption was a good choice for this.
Yeah. I can't imagine it with this Yellowstone one, because this one's smoky.
Yeah.
And, like, peppery.
Yep. Yeah, that one's actually in a... the Yellowstone is a sister distillery to Luxardo, which I was at earlier this month. Got to actually meet one of the guys that was really involved with it, but yeah. Now, if you were to rank this, what would you put it at?
Well, it's the only one so far, so I'm gonna put it low bar for now, because, you know, I'm excited about the others.
Okay, sounds good. I am gonna put this one, it's about the same as if I was just having a normal old-fashioned with this bourbon, so I'm gonna keep it with an 8 out of 10. I also just generally love old-fashioned, so that's why I'm always gonna rank them high. Don't know if I would explicitly ask for adding black walnut bitters at a cocktail bar, or at a bar. For me, I may usually make an old-fashioned now with black walnut bitters. Also helps that I now finally have that. So for this next recipe, it is actually going to be a maple bourbon So we're going to use maple syrup instead. A fun thing is some distilleries actually do have maple syrup that they sell. One of them being like, for example, Bluegrass. This is not Bluegrass. This is what I had in my apartment because honestly, it's a little bit better that I use what I have because I don't make pancakes much for myself. So what else am I going to use my maple syrup for? So you're going to have the maple syrup and that acts instead as your simple syrup. And we're going to do the 2 ounces of bourbon, and we're actually going to use just the traditional aromatic bitters. We're going to do 3 dashes. We're going to use the same combination. One of the big ways with making old fashions to play around, of course, is either with the simple syrup or the bitters. Those are the 2 main places you'll see. And the big thing with this is to play with what bourbon you're using. In this case, with this being a very well-rounded, even-toned, even-flavored bourbon, I can pretty much try anything with it, and it should work well. Okay, I've got some ice in my glass. I know it's not the like very pretty stuff, but the one nice thing about using the maple syrup is the fact that it does not require you to like do extra dissolving as you would if it was a typical sugar. And the cherry on top. Oh, whoops. Let me get this in frame for y'all. Okay, so here is the next one with the maple syrup. Shall I try again?
Do the honors?
Yeah. I tried the first 3 by myself, so like, gotta have somebody else try the first couple. It doesn't meld, the maple syrup did not meld well with the bourbon.
That tastes like a regular old fashioned.
Yeah.
Just the regular.
Well, it leans much more on the bourbon than, like, there's no sweetness brought out.
See, now I would put the black walnut above that.
Okay. Yeah. Another sip?
Maybe it'll change my mind. I don't
No, it has the, instead of having a roundedness, it goes up, which is sometimes what you get with bourbons and old fashions, just very dependent on the flavor.
Yeah, I like the black walnut better.
Yeah. Just truly, this is a good one just to generally highlight the redemption bourbon with an old fashioned. But the it doesn't really play into it. I'd be curious to see if, say, for example, we were doing a old fashioned using maple syrup that was aged in a bourbon barrel and kind of playing those 2 flavors, especially if it was from the same distillery. So, for example, Bluegrass does a maple aged bourbon, as well as actually maple syrup that has been put in a bourbon barrel. Yeah. It's a whole combination because that's always what's going on in Kentucky. I think that would be a good combination, and they do theoretically have a maple old fashioned there, although I don't think they use maple syrup as their form of sweetener.
Definitely like better the black walnut one.
Yeah, this one, it truly leans more into the traditional old fashioned. Not bad, just not
mind-blowing either.
Yeah, not something that you're gonna write home about. I forgot to mention, for a rating, I would probably put this at maybe like a 7.
Okay.
7.5. I got a little bit more of that pepper-ish, but not the back of the jaw pepper, just a little bit there.
I would agree with you. Like, I feel like black walnut would be here, and then that maple one would be close second.
Sounds good. So for the last one that we are doing, really excited about this. I'm gonna only make one for this part of the video, but we're gonna have 2 of these cocktails. Is we are going to be making a lavender lemon bourbon cocktail. So Annalisa has already made the lavender simple syrup, so it was equal parts sugar and water, and then just how many, like a handful of buds?
Yeah, I didn't really measure the buds.
Okay, but it smells amazing. It smells very lavendery. And in this case, we are going to do, actually, I think we're going to do about a ½ ounce of this syrup. Actually, let me grab a better utensil, not this. We're going to actually keep it with similar measurements, or ½ teaspoon, I feel, is appropriate. It's close enough. So we've got a ½ teaspoon of this simple syrup. Don't fall in, don't fall in. It works.
Oh, yeah.
Okay. And now we're going to add, actually we're going to add 3 dashes of the lemon bitters. We decided on the lemon because lemon and lavender is a really good flavor combination. Oh, it smells exactly
lemony.
Yeah. And then we're going to do our typical 2 ounces of bourbon.
So for your audiences, and for me too, like, what is the purpose of a bitter?
I don't fully know.
Oh.
It is a very it's like 50% alcohol. It's a very concentrated, and I think it's partially to be aromatic. It adds like some botanicals. Yeah, it adds, well, it's more of a flavoring, and it's like, I don't know. We can look it up on Wikipedia later because Lord knows Wikipedia knows everything.
Yeah.
So, mix it all together.
Ooh, and smell it.
Yeah. I'm going to pour this out in a very fun glass. We have our glass, and this is a Star Wars glass from Williams-Sonoma a couple of years ago, with the ice cube actually being Darth Vader. So we're going to pour this in, and because we're leaning more on the lemon, we're going to use the lemon that we used in that original and put into peels. One just in it to be there, the other one, the smaller of the 2, to kind of express. And that is the old fashioned. So we have our 2 old fashions. We made 2 separate ones. This is for us. Also, a congratulations for Annalisa because she has finished her master's.
Ooh,
so let's drink up. The lavender is very weak, and the
lemony.
Yeah, the lemon is the stronger of the flavors.
Lemony.
You know what? It smells like a warhead, like a lemon head, not a warhead.
Oh yeah.
Feels like it smells artificial, and it's not bad. It's just
this, like, maybe I need to add more lavender.
I know I'd seen places that they do have lavender bitters, but the Total Wines in Lexington does not, and I was not coordinated enough to make this beforehand.
Surprisingly, I would put this below the black walnut.
It's because the lemon is probably a little too of a stronger flavor. Yeah, but I don't think, like, for example, the old fashioned or the black walnut, which are the bitters we have, would have worked well, nor the orange that you have. To increase the lavender flavor, probably would have needed either lavender bitters or maybe a bourbon that leans heavier on the floral.
Ooh, yeah, because this one is a little bit like peppery, smoky kind of thing.
Yeah, it's one that, like, I feel for myself it's a little bit more of a more even keel, similar to what it would be for like a typical Woodford. However, I think if there was one that leaned more botanical, I feel like the simple syrup would go really well with certain gins.
For sure.
Like, that would be a fun one to play off of, is with a gin having
now,
the simple
syrup. I kind of
syrup.
want to try just the lavender because I haven't tried this syrup.
I've got a spoon. It is going to be just pure sugar.
You want to try with it?
I'm good. Lavender's not a like flavor I usually go for. I'm not a huge person for like strong botanical, like, for example, in teas and everything.
That is very lavendery.
Then it must have been the bitters.
Yeah. You probably need some enhancement.
Yeah. So probably, if you were to make this, use a lavender bitters if you can find it. This isn't bad. I will probably finish this off, but that is also because you gotta be able to schmooze. I mean, that's the same thing with industry. And with us being here in Kentucky, we're like, we gotta play up the like knowledge on bourbon and bourbon-based cocktails.
Yeah. It's a must.
Yeah.
You're in Kentucky. Horses and bourbon.
Oh yeah.
Has to be.
I almost want to say, like, with the Boulevardier, I really want to try it. However, I don't particularly like Aperol, so I don't think Campari, which is in a Boulevardier, would be a good choice. But thank you guys so much for watching. Please remember to like, comment, share, and subscribe. And I will see you guys tomorrow. Bye!